The final stage is shaping the dough. Now, as a beginner, you'll probably find this the hardest bit of all. But don't panic, I have a very easy method to use to shape it and get it into the BANNETON, which is this cane basket. Now the cane basket helps to support the dough and shape it. So what we're doing is creating what's called a batard. However, in order to make it easier to get the dough out in the morning, I'm going to line it with a thin cloth. This is linen. You can buy special liners with a little stretchy edge which just goes inside and around the basket. If you haven't got one of those, just a thin piece of cloth, or some people even use a tea towel, but I like to use something which is very thin and preferably made of linen. I'm going to put a little bit of brown rice flour. Now, brown rice flour doesn't burn, it's very fine, so it doesn't affect the dough adversely. And I'm going to just sprinkle a little bit over the linen cloth in order to make sure that the dough doesn't stick. Just a little bit of this onto my bench now, not too much, but just enough to stop it from sticking. And you might want to put a little bit on your hands as well. So we remove the cover from the dough, and you can see that the dough has relaxed. So all the time what we're doing is strengthening the dough by using the stretch and folds, and then allowing the dough to relax. I'm going to put a tiny little bit over the surface. It really is a tiny bit. And then I'm going to scoop it up and turn it over onto its top side. Now, if you feel it sticking a little bit, just put a little bit of flour on the bench and use your bench knife just to get a little bit of that underneath it. Now we want to very gently shape this into a rectangle. And then what I'm going to do is flip up 1/3 of the dough, like so, and very gently pat it down. You want to touch this like you're touching eggshells, trying not to break it, but at the same time making sure that there are no big bubbles in there which will produce big holes in the bread. Then we get the other third and pull it up very gently and flip it over the other side. And because I haven't put a lot of flour on the dough or on the surface, the dough will stick. Now what I'm going to do is just turn it round, and then we're going to roll it up. So I'm going to start at the top and literally just roll it over. And as you roll it, then stick the dough down. Stick it down, and then we end up with a nice little sausage roll shaped piece of dough. I'm going to use my bench knife to just push underneath, and that just tightens the surface of the dough a little bit. And then what I want to do is tuck these little bits in. So I'm going to get hold of the dough skin at the top, pull it down and seal. And I'll turn it round so you can see the other side. So just tighten it a little bit. So gently pull the skin up, pull it down and seal. Now I'm going to cover the top of the dough more liberally this time with flour, because it's going to go into the BANNETON overnight and I don't want it to stick. And just one last final little tightening of the dough and making sure that those seals have maintained. And then we scoop it up quickly. We place it very gently into the BANNETON. A little bit of dough on the top to stop it from sticking to the linen. And then I'm just going to fold the linen over very carefully, and I'm going to now leave the dough in the BANNETON for about an hour. So this is another little technique which is particularly important with spelt. When you're working with spelt, it's easier to let the last part of the fermentation process at room temperature happen in the BANNETON itself. So we cover, and we'll come back and look at it again in an hour's time.